fancy video.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. That's fine. Sorry for the delay.
Oh, you're good.
I'm gonna sit here. And you said the email, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. It's around over the day. Please forgive my shit spreading.
I don't care.
It will hopefully get better by the end of tonight.
I may or may not see it, but you know.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted you on there. I was like, damn. I can read Thamire again.
It's a good ass argument.
Thamire is so fire.
It's a good, like Scotty P is right. Like it is kind of like unbeatable.
What? The problem is
Yeah, Scotty P like thinks like Thamire is like the perfect dagger.
Well, one, I don't know who Scotty P is.
Scott Phillips,
Who's that?
Harvard Westlake and Dartmouth
Oh.
coach.
Thamire is so fire. The issue
Also
is-
like lost like 1 year draft his entire senior year of college.
Wow, shit, that's crazy. The other issue though is like -2 LD judges understand it. Like,
Yeah, I mean like when back when Jazzy judged LD a bunch, it was like a little more
huge.
because you know that was her thing.
yeah, Jazzy, Jaya, Max, like,
Yeah.
they were all smoking people in Thamire.
I'm down in the talk, Tim.
Cool.
I've voted for Max on Thamire once or twice. Yeah. Oh yeah, he works for y'all now, doesn't he?
That's why we're running Thamire right now.
It's gas. That's so gas.
We got the Max Thamire files. Alright, yeah, I'm ready.
Yep, go for it.
Rising homelessness in rural communities means NASCI section 5 is measuring section 515 loans means rural housing will deteriorate with every passing year. Campus 23. Rural areas and uptick in rural homeless populations. Rural continues look here saw 27% increase higher poverty and lower income. Rural communities struggle to provide homes to 87% of U.S. counties out. Section 515 property 515 provides mortgage loans to develop housing loans to Peninsula drive of affordable housing production in rural areas. No new construction since 2012 by Congress appropriated amount no reduction. 95% of rural communities lose 1,800 homes annually due to maturing mortgages 22,000 annually in the following years. Maturing mortgage loans increases rent burden eviction homelessness for rural families and plan the United States ought to guarantee the right to housing with all housing being in rural areas. Here's what a right to housing entails. It generates accountability and solves 21. Right to housing allocate responsibility to the government to realize adequate housing by public housing vouchers, tax credits, incentives for private development, rent control, protection from eviction, the habitable conditions tool for holding each level of government accountable. Scale and adopt the right to housing. Homelessness is brief and non-recurring. Sorry. Right to housing is key in Solves Rogers 23. Right to housing in Finland and the homelessness will provide housing services, home services, and care, social daycare, social work, rehabilitation, transportation, mental health care, substance abuse, services free Finland, USA differences in constitutional right to housing, US housing policies, and no enforcement mechanisms close to parallel. These vary such as waivers, vouchers, application cycles, prices, lack of housing options, rental new municipal savings, and here's criteria for homes not caught in 423. Housing right in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, characteristics of right to housing, the location, amenities, and livelihoods, affordability, cultural adequacy, methods and materials, habitability, sustainability, accessibility, security of tenure, facilities and infrastructure, and advantage trust. Lack of housing undermines institutional and governmental trust in the act and solve priority in College 22. Right housing is an institutionalized trust relationship between state and citizens that say the institutions that provide individuals with security, state protects the right to housing, citizens trust in the state to protect funds for public housing, houses like living sites and neglect, residency, homes underfunded and demolished with hope for recipients, stigmatized, trust is broken, no mutually respectful relationship between state and recipient that is not heard, state told to fulfill promises, vouchers later expired, a little help and outreach, runs on computer housing units, bill of failure to create distrusters institutions, nourished by past experiences, been given by scandals, residents, attempts to contact every representatives remain honest trust in institutions for the decrease, and lack of real trust is the root of American populism. Polarization direct policies key to solve crime 23. Rural resentment become central pillars of right extremism and can be done to improve rural lives and restore rural communities. Attributes rural resentment to perceptions of rural areas are ignored by policymakers. And rural rights housing is key in compliance with risk calls like equals the individual to the rights to equity, shortcomings, capital, in policy 21. Health equity linked to adequate housing, food income, self-determination, requires health justice, and for international law, essentially communities, homelessness, contributing to more health and shortcoming, co-opted and used to justify stigma, denies health rights and health concerns, that deficiency, food and lack of housing, increases the risk of infectious disease, spread of the disease, and ensuring against respect and dignity with specific intention to indigenous peoples, guidelines and neglect, frame perspectives on complete ongoing process of colonization. B. Plants also want to list the trust issues Mahoney 22. Affordable housing nation, there's a shortage of 1 million people experiencing housing insecurity, averted with the process and impractical variety of requirements that has people have to overcome literacy, limited access, and transport trust. This way is democratic processes without housing, no one voting is impossible, fear of losing belongings left. A lot of us are afraid no resources and interactions, law enforcement, and people are afraid the government will harm them. And trust is key to effective government in crisis response. The alternative is collapse and populism. OECD 13. Why does human trust is essential for cohesion and flexibility to government alone transacting housing rule of law are important. Trusted support design policy from vaccination, environmental regulation, structural reforms, and sacrificing for long-term gains and high trust environments, such reforms cannot be sustained. Low trust, economy of citizens induce populist attitudes, trust and lead to higher compliance. Trust continues critical in crisis such as natural disaster, political unrest, capacity to manage the condition for survival, lack of trust, hamper, emergency procedures causing great harm, and key to sustainability, solid disease and poverty, alternative is extremism and war, Paris 21. President allows bodies of plan and execute policy, trust and improve compliance, and give confidence and functions to economic success and SDGs from poverty, climate change, be certified on trust in institutions to address pandemic, continuation of vaccinations and confidence, associated with mortality, starvation, H1 and Ebola, trust and security, pressing trust, to overreaching political views and violent conflict, trust towards SDGs, and pandemic risk extinction appears, simulations and searching connectivity proof Kim 21. Evidence starting human life, the sudden spread of disease remain undiscovered. Simulation revealing the risk of the disease and effect on disease and leading extinction, the emergency frequently leading extinction event and global catastrophic risk of several issues like this, small ways, Ebola, affect a large population, large increases with mobility, and extinction spread will infect every person eligible. The previous studies may so as same models, they do not conduct quantitative assessment. We consider various disease characteristics of real disease could cause human extinction. I'll skip the Suzuki for now, I guess. Advantage to rural jobs. Rural housing shortages prevent worker retention, adequate housing, and it drives economic development and attracts businesses, creating jobs to equal 18. Shortage in housing in towns ruin is harder to solve economic development, bringing business industry down, retaining businesses. We have it difficult when we don't have adequate housing costs and impediments to tracking it. Retaining quality workers and small towns are considered risky investments by outside developers, rural point in rural America's development investments be mobile to work for rural America's social rebounding the places live state covering it, helpless and housing shortages and resulting labor shortages drive away rural employers rise 18. This out of moving to rural farming job for a town for a job had to turn down after research was home. Build fewer homes are being built in Anthem, usage, rural communities involved in less populated areas, kids have an economies of skill available in urban centers. 90 job openings, my county, 65 homes ago, low labor shortage so bad. Commerce goes down and down, trying to recruit workers, looking at the big employer crossing mechanics, setting lack of available workers, and drain rural economies now causes economic shocks in rural fight, but creating rural jobs solves actual and rural income 20. Growing income crisis requires a new commitment to rural communities as an example of growth capital employment wide and mentioning economic growth, GDP and growth to the stock market, encourage corporate extraction of rural areas, draining rural areas of wealth, making the overall economy less resilient, outbreaks, short supply chains, and overrunning rural hospitals, the economic and shocks in the law communities and same services, opportunities rural Americans and manufacturing and production are invaluable to the economy, but can be reimagined in geography and equality rates, rate the economic conditions and healthy for 3/4 of employment growth in the cities, in major cities, known as opportunities for economic mobility, not only differences growth, but sends message to rural Americans abandoned communities move to cities and sustain economic capture processes for cyber hedging and Rubini 20. With remains in jobs and income gaps, wider further companies will sell and managing putting down provision xenophobia, on wages and offending xenophobia, nationalism, and leaders benefit from economic weaknesses, unemployment and inequality, impulse and escape of foreigners at the stage for global reading use in China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, after cyber war, even conventional clashes, and cyber war was nuclear and nuclear 19. Nuclear combat increasingly possible. Pentagon reaffirmed the spectrum of nuclear weapons, cyber executed nuclear response in the ways that is going early. Offensive cyber capabilities are might view attacks on infrastructure, but people to full scale attack neutralizing the nuclear capabilities to for the limited attack systems of rapid escalation, just minor trust and provided and launching that fear of preemptive strikes, cyber strikes, but only a new national infrastructure lead us and different attacks on the one side, attacks on the critical military targets, risking nuclear conflicts, or Russian cyber attack trigger nuclear warfare with the same consistent tendency to tilt for additionally and when I expect every each and every policy benefits some harms others also means action to be action we don't know for the distinction we foresee a consequence that becomes part of our deliberation. Stop there, didn't read the Suzuki evidence.
Why vote app?
Because the app is a good idea.
Okay. Your evidence talks about cyber impacts and other countries using them. What's the internal link to countries using cyber attacks?
Because countries have an incentive to go with offensive cyber capabilities if there's sustained economic downturn.
Okay, so this seems to be talking about countries at large, like Russia, China, India, North Korea. What is the internal link to economic downturn in those countries? You seem to only have evidence about the US.
Sure, we tell you it's a race to the bottom. Once the US starts doing things like cyber hedging, Russia and China empirically goes
why would the US
in response
do cyber
to
hedging?
so because of sustained economic downturn. They have incentive to do cyber hedging. Plus, like, the economy is global. I don't think US economic collapse is not going to like affect other countries.
It says drain rural economies now. This evidence is from 3 years ago. Why is it still relevant?
It's a linear impact. It continues to get lower. The more rural housing shortages and rural economy stays low, the more the crisis of like housing shortages are going to increase and worker retention is going to increase. Right now, the economy is super low, which is draining workers currently. Okay. We need to revitalize workers.
I guess what's the internal link between rural job decline and overall economic decline?
Rural economies are essential backbone for the global economy. Sure, we give you evidence in, I think, the Aguilar and Willingham 20 evidence that econ crises now are sort of not accounted for, i.e. News herald growth in the US writ large, but that's mostly focused on cities. But as unemployment widens in rural areas, measuring economic value through GDP isn't actually accurate. The accurate part is that rural areas are slowly draining away, which is a major part of the
why does that necessarily mean that there is overall econ decline?
Because the economy gets less resilient. Any economic shocks becomes magnified because it's less diversified around the country and it's super focused.
What economic shocks are getting magnified?
Wait, I can laundry list you a ton of economic
Okay,
shocks.
that's fine.
COVID
I guess-
happened, like
so what's the
Russia,
warrant
Ukraine
for-
happened,
what's
Israel,
the warrant for
Palestine happened.
pandemics causing extinction?
What?
What's the warrant for pandemics causing extinction?
Sure, that's our Kim evidence. The sudden fast spread of diseases means it can combine multiple traits of different natural pathogens, which is going to lead to a super pathogen, which causes extinction.
Alright.
Combining traits in
I guess, what does the plan entail? What does it mean?
like, I don't know what you mean by the question. Like, what does it mean? It means that if
How
we
does
don't
it
solve the
solve?
right
What
to
does the
housing
plan
in rural
do?
areas, we die.
Well, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, what does the plan do? What does the hypothetical
plan do?
implementation of the plan entail? What actions are
It
taken?
entails Pat Fox voting for me because the app is a good idea.
No, what does the plan do?
Like, I don't know how you want me to answer this question. I'm reading this app, it is a good idea, I should win because the app
No,
is a good
why
idea.
is it a good idea? What does it do?
Why is it a good idea? Because it prevents extinction.
What-
And we read you
what
in
are
your
you
framework that
fiating?
extinction is good. What are you, we're fiating the resolution in
Okay.
specifically with all housing being in rural areas.
Alright, that's fine. Order is 3 off, and then contention 1, contention 2. Oops.
Wait, how many hours?
3. And then the sort of rural trust, and then the rural jobs.
3 trust jobs.
Yes. Are you ready, Kennedy?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good, Pat?
Give me like 2 seconds, and then yes, go for it.
With 50 states and all relevant subnational actors to declare housing as a right in their respective constitutions, states can successfully create their own constitutional right to housing. See Mode 21. Policies for ability of domestic courts to enforce rights. States can circumvent hurdles by declaring housing right. Constitution requires applying IHRL as models. New strategy required ideally federal legislation. However, historical practice suggests this improbable, more practical state constitution provide broader protections easier to amend states to define the same way FG would. Follow Canada by declaring housing as a human right substance. Positive entitlement mixed with a negative right to shelter. Prohibit states from modifying affordable housing without ensuring adequate substitution. In United States refers to the federal government. The federal government could be identified in articles as the U.S. The 50 states U.S. use consistently throughout Title 28 to refer to federal government. In D.C., Title 28 statutes govern all federal courts, supreme law of the land, and prefer for neg ground. States counterplan is a key topic generic which is necessary for engagement, and it forces the act to have a Fed key warrant which is good for testing of real world policies. Next off. Ukraine and Israel aid are tied and pass now. That's Kuntago 1026. Johnson met Biden to begin talks on anti-Israel. Ukraine takes $1 billion for Ukraine, $40 billion for the border. Bipartisan support, including Mitch McConnell, Roger Wicker, and Susan Collins. We should be able to move forward. Biden calling on elected officials to move swiftly, and Biden's political capital is necessary to Republican reconciliation. Tower 1026. Elected House Speaker Johnson had a productive meeting with Biden, sweeping approximately $105 billion package. New Speaker previously voted against Ukraine aid. Time for action is now. Foreign aid. Republicans have signaled they hope to make changes. Biden looking forward to working with Republicans in a bipartisan manner, and a right to housing staffed by political capital. Code 23. Biden will need to invest more political capital in pushing for funding of both subsidized and market rate housing. Multifamily housing construction lag. Biden administration failed to really lobby low-income rental construction housing shortage animated conservative think tanks. And you should independently prefer our link here because of Ash shiftiness in cross-text. Their failure to explain what the plan actually entails means that you should err negative on this ad links. Lack of Ukraine aid causes global nuclear war. That's Snyder 997. It's a crucial moment this war can be won. Russia has no meaningful offensive potential. Extended war make nuclear war more likely. We will have more countries with nuclear weapons and wars that can escalate into nuclear. U.S. arms have been indispensable. There's zero reason Kremlin would hold the terms that Russia could escalate its propaganda. Victory will be difficult. Funding protects far beyond Ukraine. The legal order war in China. Nuclear war grain experts to millions at risk. Democracy, how it ends depends on how much we help. And the perception of security escalation from lack of Israel aid spurs nuclear Israeli lash out. McConnell 17. Middle East stability, the threat to Israel, because history, Israel is terrified of being alone, suspicion the U.S. is backing away, incite Israel to behave aggressively. Israel needs reassurance through affirmation without an unrestrained Israel, bringing cataclysm. Israel's turned into nuclear despondo, striking states in the Gulf, and it draws in everyone. Sterling 11. Any Middle East war the Israelis are determined to end Israeli opposition would be use or lose. The use of their nuclear warheads, spread radioactive fallout. Iranians are prepared to launch biological warfare terrorism against America. Such a result would certainly cause a Russian-Chinese response that would begin World War III. It will be biblical Armageddon, and interpretation of right to housing must include the ability to choose one's residency. The right to housing entails a right to pick location. Wassinger and Paragraph 21. Housing a fundamental need and entitled to footage for every member across different regions with less metropolitan than rural. Housing guarantee doesn't imply the right to choose in city or region. Right to housing should come with accommodations one's sole place of residence. 2. Violation of the act does not. They only give people housing in rural areas which is not the right to choose one's residence. 3. Standards. Many limits. There are infinite places the act could move people to rural areas, small, medium, large cities, farms, coastal areas, desert regions, cities classified as ghost towns, industrial areas, tech areas like Silicon Valley. Each one of these is a new nexus. It's not about the right to housing as a legal concept, but targeted at artificially moving people to a specific area, which makes debate about that area rather than the nature of a right. B is ground. Net ground goes from bad to zero. The act artificially fiats a mechanic of movement in such a forced way that decisions based on scope of impact and precedent like econ or property rights go away. And competing interpretations, reasonability is arbitrary and invites judge intervention, no RBIs. We always lose for introducing theory and illogical to win for being fair. Our interprets most predictable. Our authors are professors of political science at prestigious universities talking about what a right to housing would entail in the real world. Precision controls the internal link to debatability as it controls predictability and pre-tournament prep. Trust. All causes for government trust. Trump scandals in Congress and COVID means that they cannot solve their internally populism about rural people voting for Trump. That would still happen for cultural reasons, i.e. being more religious and farmer interest, but it doesn't matter because more people live in cities anyway. Only 20% live in rural areas. Rural votes weren't enough for Trump to win last time, and so they won't be enough for further populism. Trust in other areas stumps the internal link. They can't build trust outside of rural areas, and their card is from 2013, so you should be skeptical. There's no disease impact, and COVID dumps. Agella 16. Headline disease, not afraid. Humanity controlled disease through sanitation, vaccination, and therapies. Outside of fiction, no reason pathogens wage war on human race, and also suggests any microbe reaching extinctions are unlikely. Pathogens so unfamiliar that no therapy applied. Transmissibility before symptoms, diseases don't meet these. Our immune system most complex on the planet. Couple genetic variations, any disease leave large population wide consciousness. Humans modify, alter, and improve technological diseases. World's adversary, and the pandemic solved war. Large-scale diseases solve nuclear war. It's likely now. Post in 20. When elites are confident they're willing to take the plunge and less likely to negotiate because they think they will come out better fighting. Peace is served by pessimism. COVID is weakening powers equally. Pessimism about readiness for war. Odds of war go down. Hacks and a survey of lit on war and disease confirmed pessimism is conducted to peace. Sickness shows the march to war. When people fall ill, they can't in combat. Pandemics threaten units, soldiers at risk. Ground campaigns pose dangers and pandemic caution likely. Outbreaks damage economy is a source of military power. Disease inhibits war. All powers have reason to be pessimistic about military prospects. Economies shrinking, grave uncertainty hurling for years after a vaccine. Trouble linger. Drain countries give reason to be pessimistic. Less trade, less friction. Citizens less supported ventures. Trade fueled resentment. Less trade, less friction between powers. Risk of nuclear competition is great. COVID feed pessimism about outcome of war. Real jobs. This is laughable. There's a few reasons. First, they have no internal link for global downturn, which their evidence talks about. There's no internal link for the U.S. specifically doing cyber attacks or motivation for that in the first place. So it's a non-starter. Independently, uniqueness for econ being bad is 3 years old. How are real jobs bad enough to make the economy collapse? These questions cannot be answered because their evidence does not explain it to you. Growth is strong and inflation is low. Graham 1026. The economy sizzled, but inflation showed easing pressures. GDP grew at 4.9, fueled by rising PCE. PCE rose at 2.4, down from 3.7. Prices for core goods fell, and no cyber impact. Warren 22. Negligible cyber attacks in Ukraine. No surprise. Simulation physical studies. Little less cyber ops and effective or cause escalation. Hard to use. False assumptions are uncommon through miscalc. Hundreds of incidents occurred between rivals in history. The conflict none has ever triggered war. Although U.S. reserved right to respond with force, it relied on measured response to decades of cyber attacks between major powers. Other fire breaks, cyber attacks useful to avoid direct military confrontation. But cyber warfare moderates international crises. War games prove vulnerabilities and cyber inoperability. De-escalate conflict. That's Jensen and Banks 18. States are less likely to engage in destructive doomsday attacks against each other in cyberspace and using war games. Cyber operations may produce moderating influence on international crises. Cyberspace offers states a way to manage escalation in the shadows. Cyber operations are more akin to Cold War era political warfare, where you design a series of analytical war games. You grant military officers, university students, study, survey, experiments. Players may choose previously unconsidered options or draw in or combine research. We found military officers and university students sought to de-escalate the crisis. Players replicated decision-making statement prefer a wait and see involving increased intelligence and diplomatic lobbying. The respondents revealed a bias towards not escalating. 52% chose to de-escalate. Cyber weapons may not be less destabilizing actors were restrained in cyber weapons. We might interpret the Russians shift to cyber operators to be one of desperation rather than calculated strategy. Actors are uncomfortable and operate when they lack relative influence or seek to limit escalation likely to action reaching into fears of large scale. Cyber operators are more likely overwhelmed due to cyber's unique use it or lose a character. Exploits could be quickly reverse engineered and vulnerability passed. Once you convert network access, cyber astronauts into attack ability, signaling your capabilities and lose the ability to contact and hack. There's a unique shadow of the future.
Read all that. 1 second. Okay. I'm ready for crossing a sec. Let me just set my timer. Alright, I'm good.
Okay. Cool. The 50 states counterplan, what's the theoretically justified reason you should get states counterplan for testing?
Well, it's a reason to prefer our competition evidence. And so it's that the state's counterplan is good for net ground, absent core topic generics. And it's good
what topic generics are missing on this topic that justifies giving you states counterplan every single round?
Well, for one, I don't think that's the claim I'm saying. I'm saying that it's a core topic generic that the negatives should have access to in order to force the AF to have a federal government key warrant, and that builds better policy education for real world understandings.
Okay, sure. The Ukraine dissad, what's the theoretically justified reason you get the link? How was I shifty in cross-ex?
Well, no, it's just that you should be skeptical of no link. In prospects, I kept asking what the plan does, and you just said Pat Fox votes AF. You
Wait,
wouldn't explain what the AF
So your
actually
question
does.
of what the plan does is supposed to let me spot you a link to a specific dissad?
You didn't explain what the AF actually does, so you should use normal means to understand it as like construction, which is what we've defined it.
What? Okay, sure. Right to pick location, can I live in a White House?
I don't think that's what a right to pick location entails.
Why? What's the bright line for location? How much location can I specify?
We think that implies the city or region that one will live. That's what everyone said.
Why city or region? Like, what arbitrary distinction do you draw that says city or region, but not neighborhood or
Well,
municipality?
we think that it would be distinct from that because it doesn't, well, I don't understand what you're asking. Like, why is it distinct?
Yeah, what is the bright line between specifying what city or region I want to live in versus like, I want to live in a national park, which is a region, or I want to live in the White House,
Well, there's a difference between saying I want to live in California.
or I want to live in like Saudi Arabia, that's a region. Why can the US not sort of give us location
I
there?
think there's a difference between saying you want to live in a specific region or neighborhood versus saying, or like a difference between like that and saying that you want to live in California, for example. Like, I think that that's distinct and that our evidence draws
Okay,
a distinction.
sure. Quick note, after cross, can you pull up the link for Nagono? It doesn't work. The politics dissad for political capital, I guess the Speaker of the House, Johnson, just got elected this week. Why does that mean that Republicans aren't spending political capital to put this guy in as the Speaker of the House? Like, what
sorry.
political capital backlash is going to mean that when we pass the AF, we're gonna spend so much political capital that Ukraine
Well,
is
we're talking
also
about
gonna
Biden's political capital, not the Republicans' political capital. We think Biden is working with Representative Johnson and other House Republicans in order to pass this.
Wait, it says Johnson had a meeting with Biden
Yes.
on the package, and the speaker
So
voted
Biden-
against Ukraine aid?
He did,
Like,
but he's
if we
reading-
got the speaker, okay, sure.
He's changing his mind because Biden's trying to convince him to. And it's showing that he's been receptive.
Sure.
That's our evidence.
That's fine. In this case, if the Republicans got a Speaker of the House into Congress and then also chose to like not listen to Biden, why does Biden's political capital matter at all?
Because Biden's political capital is uniquely key to like making Republicans pass the bill, or like the aid package.
Okay, sure. I'll start prep. Okay, 150 left of prep. The order is gonna
Is there a
be,
doc?
yeah, let me
Okay.
send it real quick. The order is gonna be T location, case, states, and then Ukraine.
Wait, so T location, case, and then what order on case?
Just trusts.
Okay, so it's just trust, trust, and then, so it's T, trust, and then what?
T trusts,
States.
states, politics, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So case 1, 2, T states politics.
Yeah, well, case 2-1, but I'm just like.
Oh, 2, 1, okay.
I'm just kicking out 2, so.
Oh, wait,
You can float if you want.
downloading the doc, I'll tell you when I have it. Just setting a timer. I'll tell you when. I'm just opening it. Okay, 1 sec. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, cool.
On T, we mean freedom of movement. People can move freely from their current residence in rural areas in and out of their homes, and we mean different suburbs, types of homes, rural areas, and regions can be chosen from. And cities and rural areas, some restrictions are inevitable since people obviously can't choose to live in nuclear test sites, national parks, etc. So claiming our specific restrictions and T's arbitrary counters of the right to housing and restriction on the location of housing. International consensus must cover in Farms 23. International consensus in the UDH are the characters of the right to housing location must be within amenities and livelihoods only built in areas safe to live, and rights have restrictions even guarantees that ways on justice the U.S. Bill of Rights. Tomasky 13 various limits placed on all rights. The First Amendment guarantees free speech. Courts of place, time, place, manner on free speech, and prefer one question topic at first and to research, least nuance based about types of housing, regional locations, allows apps to focus in on core areas that affect right to housing in order to African no TV. People can choose locations that out of the White House, national parks that lead to tiny random opportunity costs that are impossible to answer because TVs don't worse than plans because next generics but apps don't have any specifics for 3 functional limits like AL advantage of the same internal needs of more housing being provided. Small apps won't be able to access larger packs because of the small centers in a proliferated area or group of people. Apps that have advantages. We literally add only one app. Every other app is generic rest for generics. Econ builder confidence, no politics, vouchers, case, and NC supplied every app 5 over limiting the model, reduce the top just or wrestling for everyone. Checks app innovation, pragmatics. First, semantics, semantics are arbitrary, and the only terminal impact is limits, reasonability, evaluate abuse versus the substances set from voting on T interventions and ability to judge preferences, but it disincentivizes for theory debates at the expense of topic of case. The extent of trust the government, or first the second advantage will concede they'll concede all costs and plus no uniqueness, it doesn't matter. Trust with the afterwards rural housing, which helps reduce the government trust across the U.S. and increases effective crisis response that reduces war and sustainability. No all causes evidence is all just random laundry listing stuff, but it just proves our uniqueness. That trust is incredibly low right now when we need to increase trust through housing and showing a lack of hypocrisy now. And rural trust is key. Our document evidence is fantastic. It says the reason they voted Trump was because of lack of trust, and we only need a little bit to overturn the election. Is that smoldering trust is key to solve populism. Plus, it doesn't dump rural trust is key. That's correct when they didn't answer. There's a huge part of the population. Plus, our Gerard and Keller evidence says that trust continually declines as housing increases, which means the risk of often slows down. Yes, pandemics have extinction. There are evidence is fantastic that studies just say pathogens are unlucky, but transmissibility for symptoms is a viable trait for pathogens to have our evidence physically shows they don't have quantitative studies about when pathogens aren't going to combine these independently. We can have multiple pathogens that combine into genetic variations and mutations proven by COVID, which kills people that have high transmissibility. States can't claim. One, it can't solve transportation in rural areas, which is only possible through a constitutional right across states. As when I see Rogers, which means they can't solve the F2 uniformity, variations in state spending, and the commitment means conservative states don't enforce the plan to put less money or restrictions, which kills trust. 3, can't solve advantages for A is trust only, federal action and necessity trust in the USFG, which is internally to our impact states are fractured not unified, and 4, can't cleanliness and benefit. Most voters don't perceive a difference between state and federal governments and don't contribute to anything. Biden 5, principle shield the link to federal action is seen as following on states, which shields political backlash. 6, from the accountable in US means the states US Code 14 needs the term United States needs the 50 states. 7, the states model creates a race at the bottom, incentivizing each state to provide work here, jobs, and top 85. State and local policymakers consider that programs are relative to these economic and service community will be a magnet for homes that people create incentives to maintain shelter facilities and minimum and quality, encouraging homes to believe areas states compete to have the least attractive provisions. Cut the card there, Ukraine. Air app and the link to cross extortions were super vague, like white vote app. They didn't ask me to explain my scenarios or my advantages. 1, fiasco link, immediacy means no political capital loss. 2, Saudi bill of debt ceiling and formula and my budget negotiations, thumb bar aesthetic. 23, at the very moment, the Biden administration sending statement and put PC to normalize relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And 3, linked to the plan's massive bipartisan allows 22, and a divisive political climate injecting resources into affordable housing is an anomaly political and for unreasonable site voters resoundingly voted north. Dozens of affordable housing common sense consensus policies bipartisan coalition. 4, when everyone came 21 times are starting to divide shooting focusing on domestic issues, playing maintaining pieces like muscle more and the more you have is not fine. If we knew positive things about more political to do more 5 normal means requires the flowing to be at the bottom of the document. Companies wouldn't do everything they're doing and won't stop everything they're doing. Discuss land that's already Agenda Shield PC-6, no risk of the conflict of nuclear regime. 23. Likelihood of Russia choosing nuclear weapons against the US as astronomically low shouldn't be considered a senior intelligence agency. Analysts on the Institute for the Study of War. Putin is not suicidal. It's on war with NATO. Wouldn't even be involved in Ukraine. Putin's nuclear state, but it's a rattling operation for Putin to fall through nuclear. It has to believe that he would achieve military objectives that ways results in NATO, China, and NATO warned Putin against nuclear use without Russia. The war is not popular. We can nuclear defense weapons will achieve Putin's aims. It's not even under consideration. War is not so revealed that we would, but as an economy into an air paralysis that Russia wouldn't come out of it for decades. 7 no impact. Putin's all saber rattling. No action on passing nuclear test troops.
Cool. Okay. Cool. Reasons to drop the debater.
None.
Okay. Cool. Alright.
What was the answer? Disease stops war.
Disease stops war? None. I didn't read a disease causes war impact in its defense.
Okay. Politics, yeah. State's counterplan case.
It's just a case advantage one, I think it was. I forgot. It's just the one that you extended.
Yeah. Is that counterplan trust?
Yes.
Gotcha.
What's it?
What?
Sorry, what's the order?
Okay, one sec. The order is the politics DN. So like the Saudi,
Yeah.
or not
Yeah.
Saudi. Aid, and then it's state's counterplan, and then that.
Okay.
Okay. Ready?
It is try or die neg. They have conceded our Israel scenario. AT Israel is uniquely key to stop them from feeling isolated on the ways they feel the U.S. is backing away, which encourages them to use it or lose it on adversaries in the Middle East, like Iran or Saudi Arabia, and draws in major powers, causes extinction, and shapes the ballot. You should not give them new two-error answers to it, specifically because it was their fault that they chose to spend a minute answering the Russia scenario, but nothing on Israel, which means that you should treat this dropped impact as entirely true. So a risk of a link and the sufficient risk of the counterplan being able to solve the case, or the case not being able to solve, means that you should heavily err negative here. It draws in everyone which outweighs on magnitude. Our evidence specifically describes global war between major powers like Russia, China, and the U.S. over this sort of Middle Eastern conflict, and that it spills up and it affects everyone, which turns disease because it means that if a disease does happen, that there is no international cooperation to solve it, as countries are too busy fighting each other, or actually, they're too busy fighting each other, and they're never able to cooperate. We'll do the line by line here, sort of on the first argument that they made was about this sort of airing half on the link. No, they have not contested our link, which is that construction policies and pushing for more housing in areas specifically cause political capital. That's the Cohen evidence, which means that even if they think that the cross questions shouldn't spawn me the link, that the evidence being conceded definitely does. First, on the argument about Theos solves the link, no, it means that it would have to go through normal means. It's necessary for the negative to have generics around the process of how the act would actually be implemented. The act would need to go through Congress. It wouldn't just instantly happen. Yes, we think the process would instantly happen, but that it would necessitate needing to sort of, it would still need to go through Congress. Otherwise, there's no basis for the negative being able to engage in the first place, as we would not be able to contest what actually happens to make the plan happen. On the sort of 1A or 2 argument about the Saudi bill and the debt ceiling, here's the problem. This evidence is several months older than yours. The Saudi deal is done for because of the Israel situation. The debt ceiling is over, and the farm bill did not pass, which means that it cannot thump this because our evidence is from 10/25 and 10/26, which is from 3 days ago, which is much more recent, and it says that Biden is actually working for this now. 1A or 3, this sort of link turn thing, no, it is not wrong. It is wrong here because of the fact that it does not question the fact that it would still take effort to convince Republicans that there is nothing here that specifically warrants anything. It just says that voters endorse affordable housing, but does not mean that voters matter, because our internal links are all about Congress. On the winners win argument, it's wrong. This card has no warrant, so you should reject it on faith. And additionally, they have no empirical examples of winners winning, and we don't even know if it would be perceived as a win, because it would still take effort to do it. It takes time, and the link is definitely faster than the link turn here because of the fact that it would take a lot of time for it to be perceived as there being it would take time for it to be perceived as a win for Biden, but it would instantly take political capital to force it to happen, and especially since they have dropped our link on this sort of normal means bottom of the docket. It's wrong. You should think that it's the top of the docket. Otherwise, it does not pass immediately. They would stop everything because of fiat being immediate. That requires it to be the top of the docket. This argument also does not have a warrant. You should prefer the politics DA for negative ground because it's key to engage on a topic without core generics. Beyond the econ DA, on the sort of no risk of the conflict going nuclear, this is all about Russia. It does not matter. We're conceding that. We're kicking the Russia scenario. They have no offense here. We'll go on to the state's counterplan. Top level on the state's counterplan is condo. If you think that we're winning, that they're winning a deficit, or that we drop something, then it does not matter. You can judge kick the counterplan and weigh the net benefit independently against it, but we'll do the line by line here first. Yes, it does solve transportation to rural areas because states are able to do that. States would be able to have them be transported in rural areas in states. This doesn't mean the federal needs it because states could do it internally in their own constitutions. On the sort of uniformity, we would say that it would be uniform and that states would implement it together, and that it would implement it enough. You should use sufficiency framing here, especially as there isn't an impact here, and conservative states would like it because most rural areas are in conservative states. So conservatives would like to win, especially since they have read evidence that conservative voters love the plan. On the sort of can't solve the advantages, yes, it can solve on the trust thing. It's wrong because perception. People see the government as doing something good. They don't necessarily think if it's the state government or the federal government that do not have evidence for the USFG being the internal link to it, which means that any government should be sufficient to solve their advantage. On the sort of jobs question, the jobs question does not matter if they've kicked the job scenario, so you should not let them get that deficit here. So it's irrelevant. It does not link to then a benefit because this is an elections block when we have read the politics DA. It's about Congress. So it doesn't really matter what voters think. Perm do both links in that benefit is Biden is still blamed for it, and it does not shield the action. It's not seen as that Biden would still have to do it. The state's counterplan on its own is distinct because Biden is not blamed for it. On the sort of perm to the counterplan, they've conceded our theoretical reason to prefer our interpretation here, especially since it is the best for net ground because we need the state's counterplan in order to test the app. They've conceded that having a Fed key warrant is good for real world policy education, and independently our evidence is much more precise than theirs. It is specifically talking about how the the United States as a term of art is used in the Constitution, whereas theirs just says the United States could mean that. They do not have any reason to refer this evidence, so you should not do the work for them here on the sort of, that was the last argument actually. So, the state's model cost of race to bottom is wrong because it doesn't cause states to do that. This is not about a right to housing. We would feel out that states are able to do that. We've read evidence, and the SEMO evidence says that states are able to implement a right to housing in their own constitutions, and that states like Massachusetts have been able to do it. So this is empirically disproven and does not necessarily have a warrant for it. States would do it because we feel out that they listen, and this applies equally to the federal government, because if it wouldn't work, then it's just a pessimism argument that means that policy changes never happen. Let's go on to case. We're going for the sort of all-cause argument that they have mishandled here, because they have said that it just proves their uniqueness, but no, it proves that they cannot solve it. They have conceded 3 all-cause scenarios, which are Trump's horrible mishandling of the pandemic means that it is seen as that. It means that they cannot solve trust overall, even if they can solve housing trust. And additionally, they've conceded that it does not matter because most people in rural areas would already still vote Republican. They've conceded religious and farmer interest means that it happens inevitably, which means that populism is fundamentally non-unique and their advantage has low risk of happening. Only 20% of people live in rural areas, and rural voters were not enough for Trump to win last time. Even if he were to win all of them, there's still plenty of other people. And additionally, rural voters weren't additionally fully on that. And we're doing an extensive defense of the disease scenario. Our evidence specifically cites the fact that pathogens are unable to do this because of the fact that adaptation, the human body is able to adapt, which means we vote negative. Only we have an impact. Any defense to that for risk we solve vote negative.
I'll take the rest of my prep, which is, I think, how long was it? 1:30 or 2?
It was 1:30.
3. Okay, thank you. So I literally forgot to write it down. Order is trust dissent, or trust counterclaim dissent.
It's trust and then the counterclaim on this side.
Let me just say
Okay, I'm ready.
Go for it.
It's in case the afterwards rural housing, which helps boost human load, government trust across the U.S. and increases the effective crisis response that reduces war and sustainability, as well as solving sort of disease. No one causes this was one sentence out of the 1 and C, and they conceded that it gives us uniqueness. All these are past events, which means it's try or die, and what gives us uniqueness to revitalize trust after Gerard and Keller evidence and our Krugman evidence here. Rural trust specifically is key and necessary to solve disease, and they completely drop the disease scenario, which means it's 100% traceability. There's the 20% live in rural areas. This is new, and there's no evidence for this. Plus, they conceded Krugman. Rural trust is specifically key and major in the U.S. The counterplan. They conceded from both will go for that. The USFG and federal government is key to trust because it's key to solve populism. State action doesn't spill over into federal action or federal trust, proven by all their arguments, as if Biden isn't credited for any state action. That turns it on themselves because that means that trust for populist leaders around the USFG needs to be through the US federal government, which is only contextual to the affirmative from people solves. Huge solvency deficits. Now it's just for the dissent. Here's the biggest problem with it is that they conceded disease and did far too little case weighing, so we'll do sort of waste versus turns case. If we have disease, it turns all sort of stuff about populism and risk of offense, because there's more people who are incentivized to go to war. Even if you have an argument that says that populism doesn't lead to increased war, still spills over into causing so many losses around the region and around the area that instability heightens. Plus all of their arguments about focusing on cooperation, that's the point. If it weakens cooperation from pandemics, that means the only way we can solve for cooperation and solve for Saudi-Israel normalization, and normalization around Israel and Palestine in the region is through solving for disease and pandemics, which is a clean turns case warrant that they didn't answer, and they have 0 turns case arguments out of the 2-R, which means that's game over. We'll go for winners win. The biggest problem out of Ukraine is their winners win warrant, which is too bad. The Kane evidence is fantastic. It says the Dems are spreading themselves too thin, but by focusing on one policy action, it creates momentum around political capital. It's not a zero-sum game. They're assuming a world in which it's a zero-sum game, in which after we pass the affirmative, it must mean a sacrifice in political capital. No, the point is that after we have fiat through the plan at the top of the docket, which is politically popular and bipartisan, that's what Lazio evidence, but they're straight up conceded out of the 2-R and then try to cross-apply onto our state's counterplan, which means we're both under the assumption that the AFA is popular. That means that winners win, and it prevents domestic policy issues. Plus, the political capital trade-off is so little that it generates more political capital as a net-sum game for Biden, which means it's more popular for Biden to pass the AFA and then pass Ukraine aid. This is proven by the fact that right now the Speaker of the House flips uniqueness, because right now Speaker of the House Johnson is already trying to shut down the Ukraine. This thinks that uniqueness is already super weak. The probability of the strength of link or uniqueness is so low because the Speaker of the House Johnson is already opposing this. But if winners win, it shuts out and makes sure that the Ukrainian bill passes, because winners win. The line stuff on their arguments, all of their stuff, which is like the link is faster than the link turn. No, it's not true. It's not a lot of time, because we figure out the app immediately, and it's a perception link. The trust of it is perception, because when the government promises housing, that's what links to trust. That's what corroding killer evidence, which means it happens immediately because it's perception, which immediately gives winners win and allows the dissad to the bill to pass, which means there's so low risk of the dissad because winners win, and you can view it as a link turn. Plus, they just did not ever case.
Good debate.
Good debate.
Good round.
Do you want the recording or
What?
we're back? Keep recording. And I'll send it to you after via your email.
Yeah, cool, thank you. I know sending video recording is annoying, so try doing that. So
I'm just gonna
if you-
upload
if
it
you
and send
can-
it.
What?
I'm just gonna upload it and send it.
Oh, okay, yeah, that works. Yeah, if it doesn't, audio's fine too.
No, I upload stuff anyway.
Okay, great.
Okay, all good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This is a really good debate. Thanks for letting me judge it. I was the 4th judge out of 15. I really thought I would win the judge race this time. Oh well. Okay, cool. This is a good debate. I have a negative. Dissad is very large and very fast because Israel escalation happens very quickly. Perception of abandonment causes them to nuclear sort of lash out, which draws in allies. It's a very large conflict that has a pretty large risk of turning the case, because when I see evidence about pandemics is in the context of global sort of disease problems, which means that if pandemics are imminent, war that draws in great powers would probably get cooperation. I don't really understand this case turns dissad argument in the 2AR, and I also think it's new in the 2AR, which means that I'm skeptical of it. But I think that their problem with this is that the risk of a deficit to the counterplan in my mind is very low. Permutation do both. The answer to the 2R is that it still links to the net benefit, which I think it definitely does. And the only thing that I have in the 2AR is states aren't perceived as like, sufficient. I don't know why this is true because I don't think there's like a Fed key warrant in like any of the 1AC evidence, and if there is, it's certainly not cited by the 2AR, which means I'm unsure why state credibility is not enough to sufficiently restore trust in the government writ large in the context of rural areas. And I just think the 2AR spends far too little time explaining this deficit for me to really feel comfortable sitting down. I think there's a high risk of the counterplan solving the case, which means that my risk of sort of like, which means the only thing I need to think about is like the link to it. I think there are two problems with like the 2AR sort of like link turn spin. One is just like a lack of comparative uniqueness, and so like this is like kind of just like my conceptual default is just like I think that like uniqueness controls the direction of link in debates like this, and like if you want me to evaluate it differently, I'm amenable to doing that. You can tell me to do so, but I think that just like the first problem is just like I think the risk of the link is way higher because I think Sterling is out spinning you. I think that there's like ambiguity as to whether or not like the plan is considered a win in the immediate sense for Biden because he has to expend political capital for it, which is not necessarily a thing that I think the 2AR answers. I think the Kane evidence is like not very good. It just kind of says like Dems focus on single policies, but is not in the context of housing and is not in the context of like the 2R spin, which is like housing is perceived as a loss because he has to work really hard to get it pushed through because he has to expend PC, which means even if long term it's popular, short term it perceives as burning political capital, especially given like the sort of size of like negative uniqueness Israel aid has to pass now, otherwise like conflict escalates. I think that there's a medium, I don't think that like the link turn is necessarily zero, but I think it is certainly smaller than the link. And I think it is also certainly at the very least like somewhat slower. I also agree with the 2R, this Lazio evidence I don't think says like the plan is popular in Congress. I think the evidence says the plan is popular with voter, but I think they've read like better and more specific evidence that says that like Biden specifically has to expend PC on housing reform in Congress now. Like I think the Cohen evidence? Yeah, Cohen evidence is I think just like better than like what you have here. I think in order to win this debate, the 2AR needs to just spend way more time impacting out this deficit. Because as it stands, like I just don't have anything here, and then just go all in on like case outweighs the disad, and like I don't know, like maybe extend. I mean, and then just like go or counterpoint is like the 2AR needs to go all in on the link turn, right? Because I think like those are the only like winning 2ARs here, right? Where it's like as it stands, just like I don't think that like you have like enough time and also just like enough meat here to really win like all the things you're trying to go for, and I think this 2AR just like needs to go for less, right? Where it's like. There's not a universe that I'm voting F on the link turn and like case outweighs. Like it's one or the other, right? So like the 2AR needs to either be 3 minutes of like disease outweighs their offense. It does not, like the disad does not turn the case. There is zero risk the counterplan solves the F because like yes, Israel impact dropped, but also 2R basically drops disease impact because it's like 5 seconds of like pathogen studies. Like, and I also just agree like their Ev is just better on this question because Devatrils finally stopped reading Diamandis, thank fucking God. You finally listened to like me and everyone else who told you to stop. But like, yeah, like 2AR needs to either just be all in a like deficit plus like case outweighs, which I think is the better 2AR, or the straight turn. I think the problem with going all in the straight turn is just like the Ev is just not great. Right, in the line on this. Like, I think you need Ev that says, like, House Republicans will get on board with, like, housing reform. And I also think you just need, like, uniqueness evidence that is not, like, from, like, a Saudi normalization deal that, like, is basically dead already, like, the Farm Bill. Like Sterling is correct. Just, like, this Marsetic evidence is far too old. And just, like, you need much better. Like, politics lives and dies by the updates. Like, I always did politics updates on the bus 2 tournaments, and then I would do them again the day before elims, or the night before elims, right? Just like recency is king, and I think just like Peninsula has better Ev here. So I think like the best 2AR in my mind is just like go really hard on these deficits, and then just like case outweighs, because I just don't think you have the Ev to win like the straight turn debate on the disad. Also just like like this is also made much easier by the 1AR. Like not like I think like read about a uniqueness card, read about a link turn card, cut out winners win, terrible argument. And then just like also just answer this Israel thing, because that's like the main thing is like 2R just gets like a free impact because like 1AR does not notice the trick, right? Which is just like a little bit of like closer reading of negative, a little bit of like better flowing maybe, right? Like it happens, but like yeah, like you got juked is just like kind of what like the big problem here is. So like just like even which also means like if the 2AR has impact to this Israel scenario, it makes the case outweighs 2AR so much easier. Okay, but yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the moving parts of my decision. Thoughts on like 2R? I think it's good. Makes the correct decision. Topicality, like maybe not great. Like like let's say I have questionably nichely topical. I've kind of thought since like the first time you read this in front of me, but like, do you think like CX is great for you on this, and do you think that like neg ev is like not the most superb on this sort of thing? So like. Certainly think like you just like this is like the easier 2R, especially the point when they drop the Israel impact. Would have liked a little bit like better ev on like the state stuff. Also would have liked a better answer to, oh yeah, this also like race to the bottom thing. I don't like understand what the fuck. Maybe this is just because I'm not as deep into like the states and federalism question as like I was in high school. But like I just do not understand what the fuck this card says, which doesn't mean it's like a bad deficit. And I also don't understand the 2R answer to it. Maybe this is just like me tripping, and like I don't think about this part of the debate literally at all. If I read the evidence closer, think about it more. Maybe you two understand something here that I don't. But just like, I don't know, maybe a viable deficit. Like 2R does not seem super compelling on this, so like maybe better have to answer this. Or just like explaining to me why constitutional rights does answer whatever the fuck this card says. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you have any specific questions, Timothy?
I think I should be good. By the way, race to the bottom is like, this is actually interesting. I learned this in my Gov class literally like 2 days ago.
Ooh.
It's like, when states have uneven forms of, it's like uniformity stuff. When states have uneven forms of care, they try to undercut each other. So
Oh, it's just the uniformity deficit.
It's just uniformity. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, well, at that point, then the 2R should just be like, this is the uniformity deficit. We said we fiat uniformity. Which counterpoint text should probably, like, say that, because I don't think it did.
It didn't.
Yeah, so just like, or just like make it clear, like, even if like not in counterpoint text, just like make it clear, like, even in the tag of a card that's like, states can consensually create their own constitutional right to housing, and it can be uniformly enforced if the EV says so. Like, I don't know. But if it's just the uniformity deficit, then like, yeah, maybe not if they fiat uniformity. Then just be like, states don't have the cred, I think is the correct 2AR in the deficit.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, just like need better ev that's just like, also just like better fed key ev. Like, I don't think the 1AC ev says like fed key, and I think that's a problem. Or alternately, like, the other possible 2AR is like perm to the counterclaim. Which would just be a 3-minute long speech on that.
Well, I guess, why would perm to the counterclaim affirm if it's judge kicked? I guess would I have to make like no judge kick forms?
Well, PDCP doesn't matter if you're winning normal means for the plan is the states anyways.
Oh.
Because PDCP, the argument is not like permutation do both. The argument for perm to the counterplan is you should interpret normal means of the plan as doing the states. We did not take a stance on this earlier in the debate.
Oh, it solves your pain to set.
Which means, yes, obviously dodges don't link if the states inform it. Also just be like, say no judge kick, right?
Yeah.
Like, 2R does not really have like a warrant for why judge kick is good. So like, I don't know, I could be, I understand that I'm like in the minority in this question. I am pretty easy to persuade to not judge kick the counterplan.
Okay.
Yeah, as like, you know, substantive like, you know, 2R like push on just like why I should.
So I guess the 3 2ARs are going for the
3 minutes of perm to the counterplan.
Perm to the counterplan.
Link turn, which is like the worst 2AR because you just don't have the juice for it.
Yeah.
And then deficit in case that was.
And then for the T stuff, you thought that you're saying
Whatever,
like the
fine.
system was pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah. I think like I don't know. Like I think this like I do on a truth level. Like can I like it's the last term of the topic. I don't really care about like you know saying this. You know, in my heart of hearts, if I stand, you know, before my deliverer and redeemer, before the pearly gates when I die, and like the angel Gabriel like says unto me, like, was that act he? Like, might I say no? Mayhaps I shall on judgment day, right? But like, do I think like CX is great for you on this, Sterling? And also like, do I think that like Negev is phenomenal? No, and I think AFEV is like fine enough.
What do you think is the problem with the neg-ev?
I just like, well, like this Nagano Ev, like if the link's dead, like obviously.
Oh, I didn't read that.
Hmm?
I didn't read that card.
Oh, okay.
I read the first card.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, okay, I'm totally tripping because I didn't flow that, and then I was like, what the fuck, Nagano Ev? I look at the doc, and I'm like, oh, the link is dead. Just because I checked myself, but yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. Regardless, like, I just like don't think Negev has like the best, you know, like, I don't think it's like terrible evidence. I just like don't think it's like nearly as good enough on the question of intent to exclude,
Gotcha.
which I think is like what matters.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Regardless, yeah. yeah, no, like I just like, yeah, I don't know.
So, are you done asking questions?
Yeah.
I guess, how could I have improved the 2NR? Because I kind of felt like I was like all over the place, or like, what do you think I could have done differently?
I think the 2NR in the dissent is actually quite good. Like correctly identifies where like Timothy Zev is lacking correctly, like, you know, does the correct spin things. Oh, also, like, rant time. There is no fucking congressional docket. That is not how Congress fucking works. Anyone can bring anything to the floor for a debate at any fucking time. Courts have dockets. Congress does not. This is not a real argument, and anytime anyone says normal means is like plan is bottom of the docket, the 2NR should just go, that is not a sentence that fucking means anything in the context of like how Congress works.
Okay.
This is just like a big pet peeve of mine, and like it's not necessarily y'all's fault, because it's like one of those things debaters started saying like 6 or 7 years ago, and just like it's been repeated to like ad nauseum. But like Congress does not have a fucking docket. The court has a docket. So like if it's a court's act, maybe you could be like that's the case. But like if it's a Congress act, like absolutely not. Like if the act does things in Congress, then no. Also, I think like fiat solves the link. Like one, I think this argument is bad. Two, the 1AR literally just says fiat solves the link, because it's immediate. I don't think this is an argument. Like, this does not meet the threshold of argument. So, like, 2NR can, like, brush that off. And then just, like, I don't know. For me, I think the 2NR is lacking on, like, the state's counterplan. Just, like, needs a better, like, answer to, like, I think just, like, better 1NC F that's, like, states are credible signals, like, state governments. Like, the correct answer to this advantage and, like, the deficit is just, like, rural fucking, like, hick types, I'm comfortable calling them that because, like, I am one, is, like, those motherfuckers love the state government. Like, states' rights is like their whole fucking thing. Are you shitting me? Like, absolutely, they would be like more suspect than the Fed versus like, right? Like I'm from fucking Texas. I got a bunch of like, you know, uncles and aunties and shit who would be like, I don't want the federal government to administer my house. They'll be like, I will absolutely let the great state of Texas tell me where to fucking live, right? Like, but like, you know, and like, you know, jokes aside, like totally like 1NC Eb that's just like rural people like don't trust the Fed. They like states more. I think like one 1NC card on that like vaporizes any risk of the deficit.
Okay.
At the end of this debate. Yeah.
All right. Do you think there needed to be more time on case, or do you think I was ahead enough on this ad to where it didn't matter?
I mean, like if you're setting up judge kick, like I don't know, I think just like these case arguments, like I think like the best one is just like the impact due to disease, and I think like 2NR should like not more time on case, but like should just extend disease impact defense.
Okay.
Like instead of like the other stuff, because like the alt causes like don't really have much chance of being like terminal, right? Like I do kind of agree with the F. Like I think like alt causes probably have like I agree with Timothy, like alt causes probably are just like 1AC uniqueness for like lack of rural trust. I think the better arg is like this argument that's like rural voters aren't enough to like get Trump back in office. What the fuck even is populism? But I think the answer to that is just like this doesn't matter in the context of their internal link about like trust, in the context of like pandemic response for rural areas.
All right.
Which I think is key, which is why I just think like disease impact use should be the 2NR case.
So I also read the card that was like disease solves nuclear war. Do you think that's defense or offense?
I mean, I think it's offense, but like I don't think it has like it's offense if you have like uniqueness for it.
Okay.
Like if like I think the 2AR should just be like, we've read evidence that says pandemics are coming now and they will cause war. They don't have evidence for like what war pandemics solve, right? That should be like the 1AR answer to this like impact card argument. Because like yes, technically this opposing card is like offensive, but like impact uniqueness is question mark for it.
Do you think that should have been in the 2NR though?
I think like impact D is just like the truer arg. Because also like you have to win impact D to disease for this to be offense, because if pandemics kill everybody, it doesn't matter if it's solved.
Okay.
Right. Which is why it's like in my mind it's like if the 1AR had extended like the war internal, like the Suzuki stuff, then like yes, like this should be 2NR, but if not, then like no. Like I think like it just makes more sense to just go for the straight up impact.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Absent like the 1NC investing in like impact dev that's like a shit ton of wars happen now, but like COVID-2 solves all of them.
All right. Okay, that makes sense. I don't
Yeah.
have any more questions.
Cool. Anything else, Timothy?
Pretty good.
Alright, cool.